going to close something up here. Bimbo and Klimbo. All righty, we're ready to go when we want to do that recorded portion of the show. Okay, we're up and broadcasting on YouTube now to get the Facebook going. And we'll have a moment here and waiting for the billboard to pop up where I can write on it and then get to webcasting on Facebook as well. And here we go. That was, oh wow, that was the Lavaz with Betty Ramirez, and we're going to have the Saturday evening. I just had a flashback of being at a drive-in movie. Used to go to those in my youth. A flashback, what kind of person do we have there? Well, it's a Saturday night, so host Rykot, Slezak, and get to webcast in here momentarily. All right, all right. Got the white, the yellow, and the blue. So we're just going to bring those all up, and so I can be heard. Going to swing around and head on over to the table over here where we got the cameras on me and all those good things. Going to be bringing you a weather report. Let's get the computer up and running. And let me get my bag of tricks going. All righty. Here we are. And it's been a good while since I've done a show, trying to keep things together here at the station. Others have been doing shows, and the voice of Stockton. And this is November, looks to be the 16th. Yesterday was the Ides of November. Boy, was it a bad day for El Presidente. And 8:20 p.m. station arrival. Betty here. And the Saturday evening news, and at 8:30 YouTube, 8:32 Facebook, 8:27 live radio start, and it's going to be episode 22 of the Mueller report. Reading, resuming on page of volume 2. And before we do that, let us have a good time and get the weather in. And again, this is the Voice of Stockton, coming to you live on YouTube and Facebook as well. I am Richard Slezak, a board member, been here since Stone Soup, then KXVS, and now the Voice of Stockton. And as always, we're about to go live, become a full-on broadcasting operation over the FM, and goal is this coming year, we're going to be covering most of San Joaquin County. And first off, let me bring up my Google Chrome here on my HP 15, not using one of the 3 or 4 in-studio computers. Oh my golly goodness gracious. You haven't been able to hear me for the past several minutes, so here I am again. I hope that dead air wasn't too dead. We have other microphones going here on the big table, and oh my, they weren't seeming to pick me up. So I'm going to boost those way up high to the 13 range so I can be heard. Sorry about that, folks. And we're just bringing up the internet on the Google Chrome. And we have 8:36 p.m. Things are looking up here, and bam, bam, dot weather dot gov. And then we do the Google search, and usually that involves going halfway down the page to find the one, because they like to put a bunch of websites in front of it that have a lot of commercial stuff on them. So I don't need the commercial, I need the real deal. National Weather Service. And here we go. And we got the big map in front of us now. We're ready, nation application. Alrighty, here we're going down. And about the only thing going on, okay, southeast Oregon and western Idaho have big gray blob, and big gray blob is air stagnation advisory. Yucky poo. Up in Montana, kind of west central Montana. Oh, high wind warning. And down in Southern California, Santa Barbara through San Diego, coastal counties, red is that red flag warning? Yep, looks to be. Now, along the whole coast from Cape Mendocino down to San Clemente, small craft advisory for rough bar. Yeah, okay, whatever. Small craft advisory out along the coast. So that's what the big picture has. Along the Atlantic coastline, we have a storm gale warnings from the Carolinas up through Maine, going out 200 miles. Alrighty, let me set the microphone over here and go to the local forecast, and that is for Stockton, California. Uh-oh. Gotta start over again. Kind of did the smudgy on the computer, so it got all blue. And so here we go. Oh. Facebooky has a little talkie too. Alrighty. Out at Stockton Airport, this is the weather station. Oh, a major coastal storm for the southeast and mid-Atlantic. Fire weather concerns in Southern California. Oh my. Elevated to critical fire weather threats are likely for Southern California. And currently out at Stockton Airport, and for Stockton, it is 57 degrees fair weather. And boy, that's kind of dark. We used to have a little bit more. Well, I got lights on me. Humidity is at 63%. Wind is out of the east at 5 miles per hour. Barometer is at 30.09 inches of mercury. Visibility is 10 miles. And tonight we're going to have mostly clear, then patchy dense fog with a low of 46. Hey, dew point is at 45. So Sunday, partly patchy dense fog in the morning, then sunny with a high of 74. Sunday night, clear with a low of 47. Monday, sunny with a high of 77. Monday night, mostly clear with a low of 48. Tuesday, mostly sunny with a high of 69. Tuesday night, oh man, that is pegging way up there. Low of 45. Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high of 66. Then Wednesday night, mostly clear with a low of 43. Alrighty. And this is through 8:42 p.m. We're at weather.gov. All right. And let us now go to the NFL. Let's get some sports in. And that'll be at www.nfl.com. All right. Do our little Google search here. And hopefully be coming up with something. Uh-oh. We're not getting much of a reading on the mic. So, here we go down the page. And swing on over. Official site of the National Football League. Bam. And on Newsmax tonight, it's going to be the real leftist lineup. Donald Trump Jr., Bill O'Reilly, Fred Flights. Oh my. And let us look at standings. Start off with standings and here at the NFL.com. The American Football Conference, AFC East, Patriots are at 8-1, points for 270, points against 98. They're 4-0 at home and 4-1 on the road. The Buffalo Bills are at 6-3, 174 points for, 150 against. So that's net points of 24. 3-1 at home and 2-1 on the road. Miami Dolphins, here we go into the cellar, 2-7. Their net is minus 149 on points for, so they got 149 more points against. It's 119 to 268. New York Jets are also at 2-7, and they're at 130 points for, 238 against. The AFC North, Baltimore Ravens at 7-2, points for 300, and that's ahead of the Patriots. Points against 189 for a net points of 111, followed by the Steelers at 5-5 with 200 points for and 202 against for -2 net points. Then the Cleveland Browns at 4-6, 192 points for, 228 against, -36 net points. And then the Cincinnati Bengals at 0-9, 137 points for, 259 against, and they're at -122 net points. AFC South, Houston Texans at 6-3, net points 47, 238 to 191. Followed by the Colts of Indianapolis at 5-4. They're at 194 points for, 193 against. Tennessee Titans at 5-5. They're at 203 points for, 197 against, net points of 6. And Jacksonville Jaguars at 4-5 with 176 for, 189 against for a -13 net. So the AFC South, they're all pretty good. AFC West, Kansas City Chiefs at 6-4 with 294 points for, 239 against, for net points of 45, followed by the Raiders at 5-4, but with only 209 points for and 240 against at -32 net points. Then the Los Angeles Chargers, or Carson Chargers, what have you, at 4-6 with 207 points for and 194 against. They're at net points of 13. Then finally the Denver Broncos at 3-6 with 149 points for and 170 against for -21 in net points. So the Raiders are a mid-range team, contending with the Steelers And the Bills, the Texans barely beat them a couple of weeks ago. And let's now look at the schedule. And it can also tell quite a bit here at NFL.com. Flexible scheduling. Bye week for the Packers, Giants, Seahawks, and Titans. Thursday's game was 21-7, Browns over Steelers. And tomorrow we have Falcons at a bus ride away to play the Charlotte Panthers. Arlington, Dallas Cowboys are going up to the suburbs of Detroit to play the Lions. Jacksonville Jaguars at Indianapolis to play the Colts. These are all morning games our time. Bills at Dolphins, Texans at Ravens, Broncos playing the Vikings, Jets playing the Redskins, the Saints playing the Buccaneers, and for us, Cardinals are going to be over in Santa Clara, and the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be on Hagenberger Road playing the Raiders, but they're both afternoon games. Wah. So you'll need to get to a place with at least 2 TVs. And then also in the afternoon is Patriots playing the Eagles, and then the Saturday evening game is just down in Los Angeles. It's the Bears playing the Rams. I went to a Bears versus Rams game when I was a kid at the Coliseum. Had a good time. Went with Tony Bravo, my stepdad, and my mom. And then tomorrow evening we got the Chiefs at playing in Carson against the Chargers. All right. And we have 8:51 here at the Voice of Stockton. I am Richard Slezak. It is the Saturday evening news, and that was NFL.com. And week 10 NFL season. Alrighty, let's get to rolling. Continuing here, I need to get set up for the Mueller report. And that's easy. We got it on file. Bam, bam. I'm going to go over to downloads. Things have been known to be there, such as... Now this is one I drew off the... oh, shucks. Have to use the sidebar for this, folks. Might be elsewhere on file, so please bear with me. We're going through my computer, and not seeing. Okay, I'm going to go over to documents. Ah, there it is. PDF. And 142,000 kilobytes, so that's 448 pages. We're opening it up 8:54 here at the Voice of Stockton. Waiting for response. It's just about up, and it'll be coming here soon. It's been a while since I've done one of these shows, so you know how computers are. If they've been going to something regularly. Ooh. Still setting up. Still in the setup phase. Okay, getting something. Ah, there it is. And now we got to scroll down the page. We're in volume 2. Okay, that's 121. Oh, there's 4. So here we go on the light scroll. And it seems in the last show we made it to page 16. But then I got something about going to 22. And so we're going to be looking at things in the setup. That was 12, 13. We've covered these pages. 14, 15, and here's 16. Alrighty. That was page 16. And so my notes for what we're going to be resume reading, on page 16 of volume 2. Okay. Now that was back on, that was a month ago. And so, yeah, we're just going to go right on page 16. On page 16. Top of page 16. Alrighty, let me head on over to the soundboard area, and we're going to get started here on the recorded portion of the show. And today is 20. Oh no. Backspace 2019-11-16 : Saturday evening news. And we have 8, looks to be 8:50. Well, we'll go with the soundboard clock, or rather 8:56 p.m. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Saturday Evening News coming to you over the voiceofstockton.org, originating in the John Moriarty studio, 231 West Bedford Road, Stockton, California. And this is episode 22 of the Mueller Report, resuming on page 16 of volume 2. We're going to head on over to the round table and resume with the Mueller report. And going to up the gain on the microphone here and on the white one as well. Well, maybe not on the white one. All right, all right. Okay. And 8:56 audition start. And on press reports allege links between the Trump campaign and Russia. On June 16, 2015, Donald J. Trump declared his intent to seek nomination as the Republican candidate for president. By early 2016, he distinguished himself among Republican candidates by speaking of closer ties with Russia, saying he would get along well with Russian President Vladimir Putin, questioning whether the NATO alliance was obsolete, and praising Putin as a strong leader. The press reported that Russian political analysts and commentators perceived Trump as favorable to Russia. Beginning in February 2016 and continuing through the summer, the media reported that several Trump campaign advisors appeared to have ties to Russia. For example, the press reported that campaign advisor Michael Flynn was seated next to Vladimir Putin at an Russian television RT gala in Moscow in December 2015, and that Flynn had appeared regularly on RT as an analyst. The press also reported that foreign policy advisor Carter Page had ties to a Russian state-run gas company, and that campaign chairman Paul Manafort had done work for the Russian-backed former Ukrainian president Viktor Yanukovych. In addition, the press raised questions during the Republican, let me scroll down, National Convention about the Trump campaign's involvement in changing the Republican platform's stance on giving weapons to Ukraine to fight Russian and rebel forces. Alrighty. And audition start, page 16, 2015. That was 6/16/2015. Trump campaign begins and ends closer ties to Russia. Campaign cronies with Russian ties, and footnotes was meet the press interview with Donald Trump on 12/20/2015. And he said, I think it would be a positive thing if Russia and the United States actually got along. Then later, on February 15th, 2016, you want to make a good deal for the country, you want to deal with Russia. On Anderson Cooper, 360 Degrees, on July 8th, 2015, I think I get along with Putin fine. Andrew Rafferty, Trump says he would get along very well with Putin. And NBC on July 30th, 2015, quoted Trump as saying, I think I would get along very well with Vladimir Putin. Trump tweet of March 24th, 2016 was a footnote, and that is questioning whether the NATO alliance was obsolete. The Kremlin's candidate in all publications, National Review, April 4th, 2016. That was footnote number 14 pertaining to the press reported that Russian political analysts and commentators perceived Trump as favorable to Russia. And they drew from Reuters, Washington Post, plus Bloomberg, Politico, the LA Times were other sources for that. Okay, section 2, we're on page 17, and it is 9:05 p.m. Saturday, November 16th. This is the Voice of Stockton. It is the Saturday Evening News. We're in episode 22 of the Mueller Report. We're on page 17. And on June 14th, the Trump campaign reacts to WikiLeaks' release of hacked emails. On June 14th, 2016, a cybersecurity firm that had conducted in-house analysis for the Democratic National Committee posted an announcement that Russian government hackers had infiltrated the Democratic National Committee's computer and obtained access to documents. And that was CrowdStrike, June 15th, 2016. Post originally appeared on June 14th, 2016. And also in the Washington Post. Continuing. On July 22nd, 2016, the day before the Democratic National Convention, WikiLeaks posted thousands of hacked DNC documents revealing sensitive internal deliberations. Soon thereafter, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager publicly contended that Russia had hacked the DNC emails and arranged their release in order to help candidate Trump. On July 26, 2016, the New York Times reported that U.S. intelligence agencies had told the White House they now have high confidence that the Russian government was behind the theft of emails and documents from the Democratic National Committee. Within the Trump campaign, aides reacted with enthusiasm to reports of the hacks. And then a blackout harm to ongoing matter. That seems to have settled this week with the conviction of Roger Stone. Discussed with campaign officials that WikiLeaks would release the hacked material, some witnesses said that Trump himself discussed the possibility of upcoming release. Michael Cohen, then executive vice president of the Trump Organization and special counsel to Trump, recalled hearing harm to ongoing matter. Cohen recalled that Trump responded, "Oh, go all right." And there's Josh Rogan, Trump campaign gets GOP anti-Russia stance on Ukraine, and that was in the Washington Post, July 18th, 2016. More from CrowdStrike, Washington Post, New York Times, Gates testimony, and Cohen testimony. Continuing on to page 18, and that was Oh, go good, all right, and harm to ongoing matter. Manafort said that shortly after WikiLeaks' July 22, 2016 release of hacked documents, he spoke to Trump, harm to ongoing matter. Manafort recalled that, this is line 3 now on page 18, Manafort recalled that Trump responded that Manafort should keep Trump updated. Deputy campaign manager Rick Gates said that Manafort was getting pressure about, harm to ongoing matter, information, and that Manafort instructed Gates, harm to ongoing matter. Again, this is the Stone conviction, so this stuff is going to be coming out. Status updates on upcoming releases. Around blank, and shortly after the call ended, Trump told Gates that more releases of damaging information would be coming. Oh, wow. Trump told that to Gates. Harm to ongoing matter were discussed within the campaign, and in the summer of 2016, the campaign was planning a communication strategy based on the possible release of Clinton emails by WikiLeaks. And let's go back up in here to page 17. WikiLeaks hacks, Trump campaign in communication with WikiLeaks. Page 18. More leaks to come. Clinton emails. Let's see, back down, page 18. More leaks to come, Clinton emails, and then we're looking at 7/22/2016. Okay, Section 3. The Trump campaign reacts to allegations that Russia was seeking to aid candidate Trump. In the days that followed WikiLeaks' July 22, 2016 release of hacked DNC emails, the Trump campaign publicly rejected suggestions that Russia was seeking to aid candidate Trump. On July 26, 2016, Trump tweeted that it was crazy to suggest that Russia was dealing with Trump and that, for the record, he had zero investments in Russia. In a press conference the next day, July 27, 2016, Trump characterized this whole thing with Russia as a total deflection and stated that was far-fetched and ridiculous. Trump said that the assertion that Russia had hacked the emails was unproven, but stated that it would give him no pause if Russia had Clinton's emails. Trump added, "Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you would probably be rewarded mightily by our press." Okay, page 18. Trump encourages Clinton email release. 7/26, 2016. Hold on. We got 9:13 here at the Voice of Stockton. This is episode 22 of the Mueller Report. Trump also, page 19. Trump also said that there is nothing I can think of that I'd rather do than have Russia friendly as opposed to the way they are right now. And in response to a question about whether he would recognize Crimea as a Russian territory and consider lifting sanctions, Trump replied, "We'll be looking at that. Yeah, we'll be looking." And page 19, Trump will look at Crimea as part of Russia, and that was also on 7/26/2016. And continuing on page 19, during the press conference, Trump repeated, "I have nothing to do with Russia," 5 times. He stated that the closest he came to Russia was that Russians may have purchased a home or condos from him. He said that after he held the Miss Universe pageant in Moscow in 2013, he had been interested in working with Russian companies that wanted to put a lot of money into developments in Russia, but it never worked out. He explained, "Frankly, I didn't want to do it for a couple of different reasons, but we had a major developer that wanted to develop property in Moscow and other places, but we decided not to do it." The Trump organization, however, had been pursuing a building project in Moscow, the Trump Tower Moscow project, from approximately September 2015 through June 2016. The candidate was regularly updated on developments, including possible trips by Michael Cohen to Moscow to promote the deal and by Trump himself to finalize it. Cohen recalled speaking with Trump after the press conference about Trump's denial of any business dealings in Russia, which Cohen regarded as untrue. Trump told Cohen that Trump Tower Moscow was not a deal yet and said, "Why mention it if it is not a deal?" According to Cohen, at around this time, in response to Trump's disavowal of connections to Russia, campaign advisors had developed a party line that Trump had no business with Russia and no connections to Russia. Now, footnotes. The 7/27/2016 news conference at Doral, Florida. Within 5 hours of Trump's remark, a Russian intelligence service began targeting email accounts associated with Hillary Clinton for possible hacks. In written answers submitted in this investigation, the president stated that he made the "Russia, if you're listening" statement in jest and sarcastically, as was apparent to any objective observer. And also at the news conference, the president said that his statement that "we'll be looking at Crimea and sanctions" did not communicate any position. And so, yeah, that news conference was the basis for this paragraph, 7/27/2016. 7/27/2016 CNN news conference. Trump denies ties to Russia or any deals. Okay. ties, connections Okay, page 20. In addition to denying any connections with Russia, the Trump campaign reacted to reports of Russian election interference to aid the campaign by seeking to distance itself from Russian contacts. For example, in August 2016, Foreign Policy Advisor J.D. Gordon declined an invitation to Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak's residence because the timing was not optional in view of media reports about Russian interference. On August 19, 2016, Manafort was asked to resign amid media coverage scrutinizing his ties to a pro-Russian political party in Ukraine and links to Russian business. And when the media published stories about Page's connections to Russia in September 2016, Trump campaign officials terminated Page's association with the campaign and told the press that he had played no role in the campaign. On October 7, 2016, WikiLeaks released the first set of emails stolen by a Russian intelligence agency from Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta. The same day, the federal government announced that the Russian government directed the recent compromises of emails from U.S. persons and institutions, including from U.S. political organizations. The government statement directly linked Russian hacking to the releases on WikiLeaks with the goal of interfering with the presidential election, and concluded that only Russia's senior-most officials could have authorized these activities based on their scope and sensitivity. On October 11, 2016, Podesta stated publicly that the FBI was investigating Russia's hacking and said that candidate Trump might have known in advance that the hacked emails were going to be released. Vice presidential candidate Mike Pence was asked whether the Trump campaign was in cahoots with WikiLeaks in releasing damaging Clinton-related information and responded nothing could be further from the truth. Okay, 2021. Pence denied campaign was in cahoots with WikiLeaks. Alrighty, we're on page 21. Let me take a little break here for a moment. We got 9:22 here at the Voice of Stockton. It'd be a good time for me to change out the paper here and get on to the next page. And we'll head that up. And it's TVOS or Saturday evening news for November 16, 2019, and we have 9:22 p.m. and we're on page 21, volume 2, the Mueller report, episode 22. Alrighty. Right. the end momentarily. Hi, Daddy. Right. It's about the midpoint in the show. All right, all right, all right. And here on page 21, section 4, after the election, Trump continues to deny any contacts or connection with Russia or that Russia aided in his election. On November 8, 2016, Trump was elected president. 2 days later, Russian officials told the press that the Russian government had maintained contacts with Trump's immediate entourage during the campaign. Alrighty, November 10, 2016, Russian officials press release that Russian government had maintained contact with Trump campaign immediate entourage. In response, Hope Hicks, who had been the Trump campaign spokesperson, "We are not aware of any campaign representatives that were in touch with any foreign entities before yesterday when Mr. Trump spoke with many world leaders." Hicks gave an additional statement denying any contacts between the campaign and Russia. It never happened. There was no communication between the campaign and any foreign entity during the campaign. On December 10, 2016, the press reported that U.S. intelligence agencies had concluded that Russia interfered in last month's presidential election to boost Donald Trump's bid for the White House. Reacting to the story the next day, President-elect Trump stated, "I think it's ridiculous. I think it's just another excuse." He continued that no one really knew who was responsible for the hacking, suggesting that the intelligence community had no idea if it's Russia or China or somebody. It could be somebody sitting on a bed someplace. The president-elect also said that Democrats were putting out the story of Russian interference because they suffered one of the greatest defeats in the history of politics. Trump campaign, Hope Hicks, denied how'd they put it? Denied any contacts during election campaign. Uh, 12/10/2016, and U.S. intel agencies announce Russian election interference. All righty. On to... Okay, the footnotes came out of Politico. There was a second. Ivan Nekiporenko. Russian officials were in contact with Trump allies, diplomat says, and that was reported in the New York Times. 2016, November 10th, 2016. Quoted Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov saying, there were contacts. I cannot say that all, but a number of them maintained contacts with Russian representatives. And also Jim Heinz and Matthew Lee, Russia eyes better ties with Trump, says contacts on the way. And Hope Hicks recalled that after she made that statement, she spoke with campaign advisor Kellyanne Conway, Stephen Miller, Jason Miller, and probably Kushner and Bannon to ensure it was accurate and there was no hesitation or pushback from any of them. Ooh. Oh my. Okay. Now on to page 22. We have 9:30 here at the Voice of Stockton. This is the Saturday Evening News. We're on page 22, volume 2 of the Mueller report. On December 18th, 2016, Podesta told the press that the election was distorted by the Russian intervention and questioned whether Trump campaign officials had been in touch with the Russians. The same day, incoming Chief of Staff Reince Priebus appeared on Fox News Sunday and declined to say whether the president-elect accepted the intelligence community's determination that Russia intervened in the election. Oh, wow. Okay. Page 22. Pence declined to answer. Priebus, Reince. The previous declined to answer if Russia and campaign Trump and had coordinated. When asked about any contact or coordination, even this question is insane. Of course, we didn't interface with Russians. Priebus had this whole thing as a spin job and said the real question is why the Democrats are doing everything they can to delegitimize the outcome of this election. Oh. Declined. Initially, it's a whether the president. Oh. Denied. Then on December 29, 2016, the Obama administration announced that in response to Russian cyber operations aimed at the U.S. election, it was imposing sanctions and other measures on several Russian individuals and entities. When first asked about the sanctions, President-elect Trump said, "I think we ought to get on with our lives." He then put out a statement that said it's time for our country to move on to bigger and better things, but indicated that he would meet with intelligence community leaders the following week for a briefing on Russian interference. The briefing occurred on January 6, 2017. Following the briefing, the intelligence community released the public version of its assessment, which concluded with high confidence that Russia had intervened in the election through a variety of means with the goal of harming Clinton's electability. The assessment further concluded with high confidence that Putin and the Russian government had developed a clear preference for Trump. And that's page 22. Orb 12/29/2016. Obama issues sanctions. 1/6/2017. Trump briefed on Russian election interference. And then on to page 23. Keeping notes here for future reference. Several days later, BuzzFeed published unverified allegations compiled by former British intelligence officer Christopher Steele during the campaign about candidate Trump's Russia connections under the headline, "These reports allege Trump has deep ties to Russia." In a press conference the next day, the president-elect called the release an absolute disgrace and said, "I have no dealings with Russia. I have no deals that could happen in Russia because we've stayed away. So I have no deals, I have no loans, and I have no dealings. We could make deals in Russia very easily if we wanted to. I just don't want to because I think it would be a conflict." Several advisors recalled that the president-elect viewed stories about his Russian connections, the Russian investigations, and the intelligence community assessment of Russian interference as a threat to the legitimacy of his electoral victory. Hicks, for example, said that the president-elect viewed the intelligence community assessment as his Achilles heel because even if Russia had no impact on the election, people would think Russia helped him win, taking away from what he had accomplished. Sean Spicer, the first White House communications director, recalled that the president thought the Russia story was developed to undermine the legitimacy of his election. Gates said the president viewed the Russia investigation as an attack on the legitimacy of his win, and Priebus recalled that when the intelligence assessment came out, the president-elect was concerned people would question the legitimacy of his win. Page 23. Trump alarmed by election legitimacy. No deep ties to Russia. Oh, no, not me. Okay. Onward to page 24. We got 9:38 p.m. The President's conduct concerning the investigation of Michael Flynn overview. During the presidential transition, incoming National Security Advisor Michael Flynn had 2 phone calls with the Russian ambassador to the United States about the Russian response to U.S. sanctions imposed because of Russia's election interference. After the press reported on Flynn's contacts with the Russian ambassador, Flynn lied to incoming administration officials by saying he had not discussed sanctions on the calls. Excuse me, I need to get some water. Alrighty, it's water time. 9:39. The officials publicly repeated these lies and in press interviews. The FBI, which previously was investigating Flynn for other matters, interviewed him about the calls in the first week after the inauguration, and Flynn told similar lies to the FBI. On January 26, 2017, Department of Justice officials notified the White House that Flynn and the Russian ambassador had discussed sanctions and that Flynn had been interviewed by the FBI. The next night, the president had a private dinner with FBI Director James Comey, in which he asked for Comey's loyalty. On February 13, 2017, the president asked Flynn to resign. The following day, the president had a one-on-one conversation with Comey, in which he said, "I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go." General Flynn, I'll let go. Trump asks Comey for loyalty and to let Flynn go. Okay, evidence. Incoming National Security Advisor Flynn discusses sanctions on Russia with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. Shortly after the election, President-elect Trump announced he would appoint Michael Flynn as his national security advisor. For the next 2 months, Flynn played an active role on the presidential transition team, coordinating policy positions and communicating with foreign government officials, including Russian ambassador to the United States, Sergei Kislyak. Oh my, not supposed to do that. Logan Act violations. Well, I need to make an electronics check over here, and things are going well. Let's see about the radius. Okay, you've got 44 minutes into the show. Okay. On December 29, 2016, as noted in Volume 2, Section 2A4, Supra, the Obama administration announced that it was imposing sanctions on other measures on several Russian individuals and entities. That day, multiple members of the Trump presidential transition team exchanged emails about the sanctions and the impact they would have on the incoming administration. And Flynn informed members of the Trump presidential transition team that he would be speaking to the Russian ambassador later in the day. Okay, let Flynn go. 12/29/2016, Flynn, contact Kislyak on Obama sanctions. Flynn, who was in the Dominican Republic at the time, and Katie McFarland, who was slated to become Deputy National Security Advisor and was at the Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida with the president-elect and other senior staff, talked by phone about what, if anything, Flynn should communicate to Kislyak about the sanctions. McFarland had spoken with incoming administration officials about the sanctions and Russia's possible responses, and thought she had mentioned in those conversations that Flynn was scheduled to speak with Kislyak. Based on those conversations, McFarland informed Flynn that incoming administration officials at Mar-a-Lago did not want Russia to escalate the situation. At 4:43 p.m. that afternoon, of December 29th, 2016, McFarland sent an email to several officials about the sanctions and informed the group that General Flynn is talking to Russian ambassador this evening. Approximately 1 hour later, McFarland met with the president-elect and senior officials and briefed them on the sanctions and Russia's possible responses. Incoming Chief of Staff Reince Priebus recalled that McFarland may have mentioned at the meeting that the sanctions situation could be cooled down and not escalated. McFarland recalled that at the end of the meeting, someone may have mentioned to the president-elect that Flynn was speaking to the Russian ambassador that evening. McFarland did not recall any response by the president-elect. Priebus recalled that President-elect viewed the sanctions as an attempt by the Obama administration to embarrass him by delegitimizing his election. Immediately after discussing the sanctions with McFarland on December 29, 2016, Flynn called Kislyak and requested that Russia respond to the sanctions only in a reciprocal manner without escalating the situation. After the call, Flynn briefed McFarland on its substance. Flynn told McFarland that the Russian response to the sanctions was not going to be escalatory because Russia wanted a good relationship with the Trump administration. On December 30th, 2016, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that Russia would not take retaliatory measures in response to the sanctions at that time, and would instead plan further steps to restore Russian-U.S. relations based on policies of the Trump administration. Following that announcement, the president-elect tweeted, "Great move on delay," by Vladimir Putin. "I always knew he was very smart." And so we got, and this is on page 25. Russia did no retaliatory measures against sanctions. Alrighty, let me get another page going here. That was page 25. And onwards to page 26, tvos.org. Report, and today is November 16th, 2019, and we have 9:48 p.m. Continuing. On December 31st, 2016, Kislyak recalled Flynn and told him that Flynn's request had been received at the highest levels and Russia had chosen not to retaliate in response to the request. Later that day, Flynn told McFarlane about his follow-up conversation with Kislyak and Russia's decision not to escalate the sanctions situation based on Flynn's request. McFarlane recalled that Flynn thought this phone call had made a difference. Flynn spoke with other incoming administration officials that day, but does not recall whether they discussed the sanctions. Okay, page 26. Logan Act violation. Flynn, Kislyak, but no Obama admin coordination. Flynn recalled that discussing the sanctions issue with incoming administration official Steve Bannon the next day. Flynn said that Bannon appeared to know about Flynn's conversations with Kislyak, and he and Bannon agreed that they had stopped the train on Russia's response to the sanctions. On January 3, 2017, Flynn saw the president-elect in person and thought they discussed the Russian reaction to the sanctions, but Flynn did not have a specific recollection of telling the president-elect about the substance of his calls with Kislyak. Members of the intelligence community were surprised by Russia's decision not to retaliate in response to the sanctions. When analyzing Russia's response, they became aware of Flynn's discussion of the sanctions with Kislyak. Previously, the FBI had opened an investigation of Flynn based on his relationship with the Russian government. Flynn's contacts with Kislyak became a key component of that investigation. Flynn, Kislyak contacts caused FBI to investigate Flynn. Alrighty, page 27. And we have 9:52 here at the Voice of Stockton. President-elect Trump is briefed on the intelligence community assessment of Russian interference in the election, and Congress opens election interference investigation. On January 6, 2017, as noted in Volume 2, Section 2, A4, Supra, intelligence officials briefed President-elect Trump and the incoming administration on the intelligence community's assessment that Russia had interfered in the 2016 presidential election. When the briefing concluded, Comey spoke with the president-elect privately to brief him on unverified, personally sensitive allegations compiled by Steele. According to the memorandum, Comey drafted immediately after their private discussion. The president-elect began the meeting by telling Comey he had conducted himself honorably over the prior year and had a great reputation. The president-elect stated that he thought highly of Comey, looked forward to working with him, and hoped he had planned to stay on as FBI director. Comey responded that he intended to continue serving in that role. Comey then briefed the president-elect on sensitive material in the Steele reporting. Comey recalled that President-elect Trump seemed defensive So Comey decided to assure him that the FBI was not investigating him personally. Comey recalled he did not want the president-elect to think of the conversation as a J. Edgar Hoover move. Okay, some of these footnotes. There's a lengthy one, 109, January 7th, 2017, memorandum at 1. Comey began drafting the memorandum summarizing the meeting immediately after it occurred. He finished the memorandum that evening and finalized it in the following morning. Okay, footnote 110, Comey identified several other occasions in July 2017 when the president reiterated that he hoped Comey would stay on as FBI director. On January 11th, President-elect Trump called Comey to discuss the Steele report and stated that he thought Comey was doing great and the president-elect hoped he would remain in his position as FBI director. During a call of June 8, 2017, testimony of James Comey, former director. During that call, he asked me again, hope you're going to stay. You're doing a great job. So this must have been prior. There's a date there. I guess this still could be January. And I told him that I intended to. On January 22nd, at a White House reception honoring law enforcement, the president greeted Comey and said he looked forward to working with him. And as discussed in greater detail, Volume 2, the president invited Comey to dinner at the White House, and he said he was glad Comey wanted to stay on as FBI director. Okay, January 2017, Trump wanted Comey to stay FBI director. Oh, there's 112. Comey's briefing included the Steele reporting's unverified allegation that the Russians had compromising tapes of the president involving conduct when he was a private citizen during a 2013 trip to Moscow for the Miss Universe pageant. During the 2016 presidential campaign, a similar claim may have reached candidate Trump. On October 30th, 2016, Michael Cohen received a text from Russian businessman Georgy Ritsoladze that said stopped flow of tapes from Russia, but not sure if there's anything else, just so you know. And another one, text message, 10/30/2016, Ritsoladze to Cohen. Ritsoladze said tapes referred to compromising tapes of Trump rumored to be held by persons associated with Russian real estate conglomerate Crocus Group, which had helped host the 2013 Miss Universe pageant in Russia. Okay, page 28. On January 10, 2017, the media reported that Comey had briefed the president-elect on the Steele reporting, and BuzzFeed News published information compiled by Steele online stating that the information included specific, unverified, and potentially unverifiable allegations of contact between Trump aides and Russian operatives. The next day, the president-elect expressed concern to the intelligence community leaders about the fact that the information had leaked and asked whether they could make public statements refuting the allegations in the Steele reports. In the following weeks, 3 congressional committees opened investigations to examine Russia's interference in the election and whether the Trump campaign had colluded with Russia. On January 13, 2017, the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence announced that it would conduct a bipartisan inquiry into Russian interference in the election, including any links between Russia and individuals associated with political campaigns. On January 25, 2017, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence announced that it had been conducting an investigation into Russian election interference and possible coordination with the political campaigns. And on February 2, 2017, the Senate Judiciary Committee announced that it too would investigate Russian interference efforts to intervene in the election. Page 28, Cong and Senate start investigations into Russian election interference. Alrighty. And that's it. We'll resume at page 29, top. Alrighty, folks, we have 10 p.m. here at the Voice of Stockton. This has been the Saturday Evening News. Made it up to page 28, volume 2 of the Mueller Report. Oh man, it's just been getting more and more. Especially, oh man, since it came out. Okay, folks, let me do some button pushing over here. It's been a fine time with you, and hope you get this on the replay. We'll be replaying it in a while. And let me find the off button on this thing in 3, 2, 1. Alrighty, folks, we're continuing with live radio and webcasting. Folks on the internet watching over YouTube and Facebook, I'm going to bid you arrivederci, and let me